And that is the most important thing. What is the goal of your speech? What's the goal of that keynote? That's why, yes, so the first point is if you want to memorize it, then practice it so many times that it will be very natural. But I prefer not to memorize it, but to have a structure in my head and on paper, of course. First, it's on paper. Then you have to get it in your head. The structure needs to be very clear. First, you remember your opening very well. So you have to remember those 2 sentences or 3 sentences and repeat them several times so that when you go out there and you're a little nervous, then you say those sentences that you could say when somebody wakes you up in the middle of the night. You just have to remember them so well.
Talking with the experts.
Hello and welcome to Talking with the Experts. My name's Rose Davidson from rosedavidson.com, and Talking with the Experts is about all things business by business owners for business owners, and you can find it on all good podcasting streaming platforms and on YouTube. And today it's my pleasure to introduce you to Natasha, and I'm not even going to pronounce her last name. She's from the Ukraine. Her business is called Change View Incorporated, and we're going to be discussing public speaking. And Natasha is a speaker, business trainer, and a public speaking coach. She has trained hundreds of entrepreneurs and executives from more than 20 countries to give powerful presentations. So hopefully I will learn something from her tonight, and I hope you will as well. Welcome, Natasha, and thank you for joining me.
Thank you, Rose. Oh, this is an honor and a pleasure to be here and to share my favorite topic, public speaking. I really love to help other people fall in love with it. That's like my passion and my mission, because I know that it's super important for entrepreneurs, for businesses, to be able to speak about their services, about their products, speak in public, speak on social media. And when people cannot do it, when they have a little bit of a block, for me, it's like a challenge. Okay, we're going to break that block. And I want people to fall in love with it because that's the best. That's the best.
Yes, I agree. I do agree with you. It's because of what's happened, the pandemic and everything. People have to be online now more than ever, and they can't really hide anywhere. The camera doesn't lie, and it takes note of all your facial expressions, your body language, your tonality, all of those things. And they're really important now to get those, pretty spot on, so that, you're being authentic and you're not, trying to fool your audience in any way.
Absolutely. And you know what's interesting now, when people can see themselves on camera, like on Zoom, for example, you see that little box. This is so helpful. It's so useful for you guys to watch. You sometimes look there and not look at yourself all the time. Look into the camera as much as possible, but still you will see your face and pay attention to some of your face expressions, because this is self-awareness. And when we increase our self-awareness, that's when we can become better. I remember when I first started teaching online, and that was years ago, I noticed that I was doing this, with my forehead. I was like wrinkling my forehead too much, just because I'm this kind of a personality that my face expressions change all the time. And I'm like, that doesn't look good. I'm going to change that. As soon as you pay attention and you see, you will be able to know what you would love to change. So that's awesome. Yeah. Pandemic helped us.
It's my eyebrows. I'm always raising my eyebrows. And sometimes I'm lucky enough to be able to raise one at a time.
Ooh, that would be an awesome skill. Raise one of them. So cool.
It is cool. Yeah, and that's usually what I notice about my facial expressions is my eyebrows raise when I get really expressive, and I talk with my hands a lot, which is good, but as long as you do it slowly. But I tend to rush, like an Italian, is like very expressive with their hands. So, and it's not a good look when you're up on the stage or trying to do a live, because, the camera um, doesn't like it
Yeah.
very much. You need to be smooth.
Yes. Well, I wouldn't say that it always has to be smooth, but it needs to be congruent with the message, with what you're saying. Because I always say that our gestures, they're like our visual, our arms, our hands, they're our visual aids. And we can use them to help confirm our message, make it stronger and more powerful, and help people understand. For example, we talk about something big, something small, a list of things. Da, 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 da. So you can use your hands and make your message more powerful. But I understand what you mean. If we use gestures and we move our hands too much and in the same way all the time, that was my thing. I also gesture a lot, and I was doing things like this.
Yeah, me too.
A lot, all the time. And you know what? Just what I said at the beginning. As soon as I started watching myself on camera more, so I would go live or I would create videos and then I watch them, of course, I started noticing that, and okay, so I'm going to change this. This is too much. And see what I'm doing now with my hands, this check. It helps when people see it. It helps them understand not just the voice and the words, but also this little thing with your hand. So gestures are powerful when you're able to use them exactly to help your message.
That's right. And you need to keep your elbows bent and whatever, so that people can actually see your hands, because standing them like, covering your belly or this, this is a really horrible. I hate this pose when people do it when they're speaking, because it's like, oh, I know more than you, or they do this.
I know. And a lot of people love this, but I can't stand, because that's how you close yourself from people. So you create this block. And for me, public speaking, it's all about connection. So you speak to the audience. So everything should be about connecting with your audience. And as soon as you hold like a piece of paper in front of you and you're reading from the piece of paper, you close just like a wall, like a block. You created this obstacle between you and the audience. That's why this also creates the same obstacle. Open, you people. Open your arms and your gestures and your posture. The posture needs to be open.
Oh, absolutely. And tonality is also another big thing. You have to vary your tone. You can't just be
Absolutely.
That is so important too, because otherwise people get bored with listening to you, and they zoom out and start playing with their phones and doing whatever.
Yeah, we call it vocal variety. And vocal variety is not even just about the volume or just about intonation. It's a lot of things. So it can be pitch. You go up, and like when you speak about this, it's endearing. So you talk about something special, or you speak to the kids. Then if you want to be persuasive, then you go down and it's a low pitch voice. So you play with your pitch, then you do volume. Sometimes when we're excited or we really get into it, then we are loud and we're fast. But then you want to attract people's attention to something, and it's like the most important message. Then you slow down and you whisper. So I love it. Yes, vocal variety is so powerful. And when people learn how to leverage, to use their voice and the power of their voice, then they can see that they can do so much with it. People, I think, don't use it enough.
No, they don't. Even if they weren't doing public speaking, just in normal everyday life, people tend not to use different vocal pitches, tones, whatever, and just becomes boring. And you think, oh, please hurry up already, I just want to leave.
I know. I love this. Maybe you use the speed controller, the video speed controller. I use that on my Chrome. And whenever I watch videos, courses, because I take a lot of different courses and programs, and then I watch people's lives. I always use it on like 1.5 or speed, or even double speed. Then I still can hear, but it's faster.
Yeah, I've got some friends that do live videos every single day, because they're either card readers or they're doing something. And I really do like these people, But, I can only listen to them for about 5 minutes because
Mm-hmm.
either they just go on and on and on about inconsequential things, or because I just like the information. That's the type of person. I
Yeah.
just want you to deliver the information to me, and stop all the
Mm-hmm.
really bits on around the
Mm-hmm.
outside, which I know some people like. But yeah, it's just their voice. It just, I don't know. It
Mm-hmm.
bothers me, and I can't listen to them for very long, as much as I like these people.
Yeah, but see what you started talking about now is even content. So it's not just the voice, but right. So you said they go on and on and on about some in the consequence. So that means that they didn't really grab you, not with their voice, but also not with their content. They
No.
didn't say something that was very interesting for you, and they kept rambling probably. And speaking about this, we are all guilty of that sometimes when we start speaking. And if we haven't planned it in our head, at least in our head, or better on paper, then we could keep on and on and on about the same thing, repeat things, and then people will lose the audience. People will stop listening to that. So
Yeah,
structure, content is also super important.
it is very important. Now, one of the questions that I do have about public speaking, and now it's just gone out of my mind, which so we'll come back to it later when I can remember. I'm having a senior moment today, so oh yes, I remember now. When you're giving a keynote or something that's a bit longer than 2 or 3 minutes, how do you actually remember the keynote? So if your keynote has to go for half an hour or an hour, how do you
Mhm.
practice it so that you can remember it? I mean, I know you don't have to do it verbatim, and because the audience isn't going to know that you've forgotten words or whatever. And
Mhm.
I know that spacing between words is very important, so that
Mhm.
you're giving the audience enough time to think. So how does one practice to do a
Mhm.
keynote?
That's a great question. That's a perfect question. And I would say definitely don't do it verbatim, because people do it. They memorize, they write down their speech, they memorize it, they rehearse it maybe twice, and then they go and deliver it. And then people in the audience can feel that you memorize. I always can hear that you
Mm,
memorized it and you're just saying word by word what you have written. Because usually when we speak, it's different from when we write, and these sentences are different, the structures, and it's so you could hear that. And for me, that's not natural. That's why I always say this speech needs to be a conversation. You can memorize it. It's great. If you think that you want to remember a 30-minute speech, is possible. You can memorize it, rehearse it, but then you have to rehearse it so well, so many times. If that is, let's say it's a TED talk or TEDx talk that
mm,
you need to deliver it in such a great way. So it's just such a needle mover for you or for your business, or any other kind of presentation, or any keynote that is just super crucial for you. So you have to remember everything. Okay, memorize it, but then you rehearse it so much, so many times, that it becomes a part of you. Then when you speak, you'll be okay missing something, not saying all the words, but because you feel it already, you know the structure in your head, you know where you're bringing them. And I will get to that. I'll explain what is super important when you are preparing this speech, the keynote, when you are trying to remember it, not even memorize it, but remember. But just I'll repeat this again. If you want to memorize it word by word, then practice it so many times. One of my clients, she practiced it 40 times, because every time she sent me the video, I said, no, it's not you. It's just not you. You're reciting a poem. I don't want this. I want you. It needs to be natural. Feel it. You've got to feel this speech. And after 40 times, she sent to me, she's like, oh, you made me do this. I created 40 videos. And finally, I loved it, just because she owned it. It became a part of her. And she didn't say everything like word by word. There were maybe a couple words that she didn't say, but she delivered what she wanted. She had the goal, the objective of this speech in her mind. And when she delivered it, she achieved that goal. And that is the most important thing. What is the goal of your speech? What's the goal of that keynote? That's why, yes. So the first point is, if you want to memorize it, then practice it so many times that it will be very natural. But I prefer not to memorize it. but to have a structure in my head and on paper, of course. First, it's on paper. Then you have to get it in your head. The structure needs to be very clear. First, you remember your opening very well. So you have to remember those 2 sentences or 3 sentences and repeat them several times so that when you go out there and you're a little nervous, then you say those sentences that you could say when somebody wakes you up in the middle of the night. You just have to remember them so well. And you're saying them that will help you get into the flow and the nervousness will go away. So you remember your opening super well. Then you have to know the structure. You need to know, what is my main idea? One big idea. Don't have many. Have one huge key message, a takeaway that you want people to remember when you finish your speech. Because a lot of times people have this speech and they share, and then when they stop or they leave, and people are thinking, okay, what was that about? So it needs to be super clear for you and for the audience. And when it's one idea, then it's the best. Then you have your points or sub-points or some sub-arguments, something that will prove and confirm your main idea. And of course, you could have a story. The story could be at the beginning, could be in the middle. The story could be something that confirms and strengthens one of your points or all of your points or strengthens your big ideas. So stories, it's up to you. You can definitely use them, but you can use them in any part of your speech. And then you have those Roman columns, we call them, or these points. And why Roman columns, I can tell you later. There's like a legend. But mainly it's the points of your speech. And then you have to remember very well, kind of like opening, you remember your ending. You memorize, what are those 2 sentences that you say at the end, a call to action, a summary of everything you just said, an inspiring quote, a rhetorical question, or a little story. How will you end it? You have to end strong, and you need to know it very well. It's starting with the end in mind, Stephen Covey. It's when you're starting your speech, where are you bringing your audience? Because even if you forget something, even if you don't say one of the points, or you don't say all those sentences you memorized, but if you know where you're bringing them at the end, then you will achieve your goal. Then you will not ramble, and you will finally bring them, because you'll keep this in mind. Oh, okay, I'm finishing with this. I'm finishing with this. That's where I'm going. That's where I'm going. And that will help you structure your thoughts and always come to that statement. So very easy. Remember, memorize the opening, memorize the ending very well, and know your points.
Right.
One big idea.
What about moving, along the stage? If you're like doing it in person, doing a keynote, is it advisable to be moving on stage or just stand in one spot?
Yeah, it's perfect if you can move. Some people stand, and it's okay. There are different personalities. If you watched Ken Robinson's speech on TED, and he's standing, but it's just because of his condition. He can't move, so he was standing, and that's number 1 speech. It's the most popular, the most watched speech on TED. But moving really makes it more energetic and animated, and at the same time it helps you connect with your audience. So move to one side of the stage or of the audience, then to the other, come closer to them, come further. But also there's the whole science about it. You move on the stage, and depending on how you move, where you go, people can perceive. So psychologically, people will understand what you're saying in a different way. For example, and let me remember this correctly, you go to the, so for people, because it's different for us and for people when they're watching, you go to the right when you speak about the past, you go to the left when you speak about the future. It's like you move. Then you, for example, start in one spot, and then when you have this moment of sharing a failure or talk about some pain, then you go to a different spot of the stage and you stand there and you share this. And then when you transition in your speech to the moment of a triumph or success, or when you overcame that pain, then you move from that spot. So you use the stage also with this in mind strategically. And people, they don't know, so they wouldn't understand what you're doing, but psychologically, subconsciously, they will be perceiving, it will be much more clear for them. They will remember it better.
Yeah.
So that's really fascinating to me.
Yeah, but I can never get sometimes I forget. Is it my right hand? Oh no, my right hand or their right hand. So you're facing the
It's
audience.
my
So
right hand. Yeah.
it's
So
their
we're
right
facing
hand.
the audience. No, no, no. It's my right hand. So for them, it will have my right hand is
Their
past.
left.
Their left. Yeah. So for them, it's left, and for me, it's right. It's past, and then this is future.
Okay, so
Yeah,
it's
because it's like it's basically it's the opposite. So it's like counterintuitive because we're doing it for them.
yeah.
Because usually we would do past, future, but when we're speaking, we have to do it the other way
Okay,
around.
yeah.
Yeah, past and
Okay,
future.
yeah. So we've got movement, we've got tone, we've got memory. So what structure makes a good talk, do you think?
What structure?
Yeah, like how would you structure it? I know you said have a
Mm-hmm.
strong beginning and a
Yeah.
strong ending, and then remember your points in the middle, but and
Mm-hmm.
your stories and everything. But how do you structure it? Like, do you start with a question, or do you just
Mm-hmm.
open up with a story, or or do you give some
Yeah.
background to what your talk's going to be about, or
Mm-hmm.
those sorts of things?
Yeah, and there are so many different ways of how you can structure it. Of course, I can give you a few ideas and also the main concepts of
Yep.
a structure. So definitely, you need to keep in mind there has to be an opening, body, and conclusion. So
Mm.
this is like the basics. If you didn't have the opening, you just jumped into it, or you started with, "Hi, my name is Natasha Bazilevych, and I'm so happy to be here." And of course, you are happy. Why do you have to say that? And who cares that you're Natasha Bazilevych? Nobody cares. People care about them. So that's why we need to start with them, the audience, the question. That's perfect. If you start with the question that will grab their attention, that they can relate to, because first you need to build a rapport. How do you build that rapport? You ask something or say something that will make people think, "Ooh, yeah, that's me." Have you ever have you ever felt that you have an imposter syndrome, that this is not you, that people might find out that there's something about, have you ever felt that you want to exercise every day you plan, but you, and so depending on the topic of your speech, you ask a question that people will think, yeah, that happened in my life. And you could ask 2-3 questions so that more people would relate to it. And then you get into your body as soon as you grab their attention. You can start with a story. Don't start with the long story, start with the little one, just like an episode, a moment. And it should be something, again, that will grab their attention. Don't start like, "Let me tell you a story." Well, some people do it, but a lot of times it's kind of an overused phrase that you think that you will grab people's attention, but not anymore. If you start with a phrase from the middle of the story, like a quote, something that somebody said to you, "You will never be able to achieve success in your business," he said to me when I asked him to that. I mean, I'm just making this up, but
Yeah.
you will not. So say something shocking. He said to me when I asked him, and that's when I thought, I will, and I will show everybody. So don't start with, "I was born in 1978, and then I was born in Murmansk, and then I." So don't make it chronological. That is a little boring. Start from the middle, start from the end, start with something that will grab people's attention. That is the most important part. And then there are so many ways of structuring your speech. You could have the opening, and then you tell a story, and then you go into points, and then you go into the closing. You can start with saying, especially if that is a business presentation or anything kind of official, you can say, "Today, I want to share with you 5 lessons that I learned in my business." So you say to them from the very beginning so that they know, oh, okay, there will be 5 lessons. All right. So we know what to expect. We know that when she says 3, there will be 2 more. It's good when you tell people. So you start that. And then the important part of a story, and not even just a story, but any kind of speech, is contrast. So you use that in your structure. Contrast is when you show before and after. I'm sure that you heard those kind of speeches and you are using, and the audience, you guys are using that too, even without thinking. So you talk about a conflict and then a resolution. You speak about a failure and then the triumph, then the struggle and then success. So something that was a little negative, and then you show how you overcame that. It's super powerful. And what's her name? Nancy Duarte. She talks about that in her TED Talk. She has a book, and you can read that. She explains it in a perfect way, before and after, what was and what is, or what could be. And one thing that I wanted to add here, and now it slipped out of my mind. So remember, I know, see, is that contagious? So remember the contrast. That is super important. And when you show them, now I remembered, there are seven ways of sharing a story. So that is more about storytelling, but you know how our speech needs to be like a story, or at least you should use a story inside. And sometimes even when we are sharing something, it has the same structure as these seven archetypes. And I will try to remember them from my memory. From rags to riches. So you talk about how you didn't have something, you couldn't do something, and then now you can. Overcoming a monster, the second one, and the monster. And you know, these archetypes, we can see them in movies, stories, books, and everything, but also in our speeches. The monster, it's our problem. It's our challenge. It's something, it's our maybe a habit that we're trying to overcome, a failure, whatever. So overcoming that monster. Then it will be the journey, like a voyage. When you're going, you're starting somewhere, not even necessarily the literal voyage, but you are starting somewhere, then you are moving in your business, in your life, to another stage, and then to another. And it's like a journey. You are traveling and you're taking people together with you on that journey. Or it could be a quest, when you have tasks and you have to accomplish them and you share with people. So similar to a journey, but not exactly. Then we have a comedy and a tragedy. So you could share a joke, you could share something funny, embarrassing that happened in your life. And this is very important. Make it emotional. Make it, you will, if you trigger people's emotions, they're with you. You have them. If you made them laugh, if you made them cry, even if you made them smile inside, and they didn't even show you that smile, but they're thinking, cool. And they don't even show it to you on their face. Don't be deceived. Don't even be deceived by people looking into their phone. Sometimes those are the people who are listening most attentively. They're just not looking at you. But remember, trigger their emotion. And the tragedy, of course, when you are sharing something tragic, and now I can't remember the seventh one, but it might come back to me. I'll share. So yeah, this is the structure.
Out, Natasha?
Could you say that again? Sorry.
Sorry. Have you got any books out? Have you written any books?
I am starting one. I'm starting to write the book in July. I'm so excited.
What's it going to be called, or haven't you decided yet?
Well, I know what it's going to be about, but I don't really have a name yet. It's something around Speak with Power, because I have a program, Speak with Power, and I have the podcast, Speak with Power. So it's about speaking. It's about unleashing that power, that message from people. And for me, I work with entrepreneurs a lot, and I have a heart for entrepreneurs just because I think that there's so much power in creating a business, in taking, because who are entrepreneurs? We are the crazy ones. We are the ones who have this message, this dream, this goal, and we are bringing it to the world, because so many other people have it, but they don't. And so for me, I want entrepreneurs to take this message about their product, about their service, and then go and bring it out, bring it to the world, speak about it, speak with confidence and speak with power. So that is the main idea. And I'm still researching it. I'm interviewing people and asking about their struggles. And now I can see it better. But I will start writing it in the summer. Yeah.
Yay.
Really excited.
You got a podcast. And how many episodes have you done so far?
Actually, I just started in January. I never really thought that I would want to start a podcast. And then my coach, she was inspiring me to start one. And then one of my clients, she just said, you have to have a podcast. You just got to start a podcast. And I'm like, okay, well, if people keep saying that, then I did. And as soon as I started in January, I do 2 episodes per week. So now I have, I think 30. it's such an incredible journey. Well,
Oh,
you are
thank
doing
you.
this. It's such an amazing journey. And the best thing is about having the conversations with people like
Absolutely.
you. Like,
Yeah.
yes.
I
Mm-hmm.
love meeting all the people I've met, and I think you're about 145 on the list at the moment. So,
Wow.
and I started last July. That's not past, that's past. Last July.
Uh-huh.
Um, yeah, so about just over 140 now I've done. So, and just the people that I'm meeting, and the backgrounds and the services and whatever that they offer and the advice, it's
Mm-hmm.
incredible. They're just people who wouldn't have crossed my path any time
Yes.
in my life ever. And yeah, it's been absolutely brilliant. And I've actually made some really good acquaintances out of it, and we keep in touch, which is really, really nice.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. It's amazing. Yeah, connections, collaborations, and everything that comes out of it. For me, that has been such a revelation. It's like, why haven't I started it earlier? Why didn't I do
Yeah.
that sooner? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
started
this is
mine
a great
because of the
journey.
pandemic. I could see businesses, shutting or not knowing how to turn themselves around so that they could still stay in business. And I thought, well,
Mhm.
I'll start a podcast. I had no idea what I was doing. I just bought a microphone and a camera, and here I am. And
Yeah.
yeah, as I said to you off camera before, for me to get in front of a camera by myself is like, uh, you know, not very comfortable, but speaking to
Mm-hmm.
other people and having a conversation about what they do, I mean, I'm
Mm-hmm.
totally
Mm-hmm.
comfortable with it, so I
Yeah.
don't
And
know.
see, and let me say this because I said that to you, but I also want to say that to the audience. See, this is the mindset, a conversation. So you just said it yourself that you're comfortable having a conversation with people. So if anybody feels nervous going on camera, going live, speaking on the stage, speaking on Zoom, doing any kind of public speaking presentations, think in your head, this is my conversation. I'm just having a conversation with a friend. I'm just having a conversation with those people who are listening to me, and forget about the number of people, forget about how they will think about you, how they will judge you maybe. Forget, but you're just having a conversation. You're sharing something important for you. And as soon as we have this in our mind, everything changes. Then we relax and we just talk and present, not like, no, 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 I have to tell you 3 points that I learned in my business. So that right away, people change. As soon as you know what, you guys, I have these lessons. I started my business 5 years ago and I've learned so much. You just talk, then your voice changes, the intonations, the pace, because it becomes normal. And
Mm,
as soon as I can hear some of my clients, they even tell me I'm not reading. I said, you're reading from paper. Stop reading. Stop talking to me. And they would say, I'm not reading, but they sound as if they are reading, because that's how they have this presentation mode. Well, get out of your presentation mode, get into your conversation mode, and then everything will change. Then you will start speaking to me and not at me, and
yeah.
not just having a
Yeah, well,
presentation.
this happened to me last on Sunday night, just gone. I was invited to go onto a domestic violence awareness Facebook page and do a Sunday night chat show. And
Mm-hmm.
last Sunday was my first episode. And so I was there for a whole hour just talking to myself, basically.
Oh yeah, that.
And, it was really fun. I mean, I knew there were, a lot of people out there watching, but I was just talking like I was talking to you, and just having a conversation with myself. And
And that is the
it went
best.
really well. I was really surprised that I could carry it on for an hour and not, get flustered or forget anything. Well, I didn't have anything to forget because I didn't have a subject in mind. I just talked
Talked.
about stuff, and yeah, it was really fun. I really enjoyed it. I came away after I finished, and I was just felt, I don't know, I just had this great buzz. It was wonderful.
Yes, yes. I think that that's the best. You just talk and you share, and that's you. That's not something you scripted and remembered, and then you deliver it in a certain
Mm.
voice, and then people even change their voice. Like the sound of their voice is
Oh
different.
yeah, it's terrible, terrible.
Mhm.
Anyway, so we've got over the book thing and we've got over the podcast. What's the podcast called again?
Speak with Power.
Speak with Power,
Yeah.
right? And where can people find you, Natasha? Most importantly.
Most importantly, yeah, people can find my podcast at Speak with Power. They can find me on Facebook, on Instagram, well, basically everywhere. But my digital home is my website, and that's natashabazilevych.com. I know that it's my last name is hard, but I'm not going to change it. I'm not going to make it simpler. It's for the sake of my dad. My dad passed away, and I remember when I was creating my personal brand, I was thinking, should I make it Natasha Bazi, or how like Gary Vaynerchuk, he's a Gary V. Like, no, it's going to be Bazilevych. So it's like Basil, but with a Z, and then EVYCH.
Yeah. I'll put it in the show notes, and then people can make up their own minds how to pronounce it.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, it doesn't matter how you pronounce it, but just so you find it.
That's correct. Exactly right.
Yeah.
Look, Natasha, I've had so much fun talking to you. Honestly, it's been a blast.
Thank you so much. I had so much fun talking to you too.
All right, I'll have to get you on later in the year. I've got a plastic sleeve where I keep all my favorite guests. So I'm going to put you in there and I'll get in touch with you later on.
Awesome. And maybe you will come to my podcast and we can keep speaking about that.
Yay, all right, darling. I shouldn't call you that, but thank you so much for
you can. Why not?
Thank you so much for coming on. And yeah, I will get in touch later on in the year.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Natasha.
Thank you, Rose.